If you're struggling with your fitness goals and you're looking for a simplistic approach, yet something that appeals to your intellect, then you might want to talk to online fitness expert and lifestyle coach, Luke DePron. Here's our conversation. The more I travel, I notice that Americans are a lot larger than people in other parts of the world, probably with the exception of like Northwestern Europe, where people are just like taller and big. You know, these are like the descendants of Vikings.
Yeah,
and
the
whatnot.
robust people.
How did you land into the fitness world, man?
Well, I think like a lot of people, I played high school sports. And then, of course, like most people, it actually ends, right? And I was not a college athlete, so I didn't continue athletics in that sense. But I was going to school for business ultimately. And I wanted to do international business because I actually wanted to travel. I figured, well, let's figure out how to do it for a career. And I can remember I transferred colleges my junior year, sitting in an accounting class and just thinking like, I absolutely hate this shit. Like I hated I'm not a numbers guy, hated it. And I started looking at like, what do I actually enjoy? And the things I was like reading about, I would read about nutrition. I'm reading about exercise. And it's like, well, there's a kinesiology department where you could actually have a degree in some of this. And so, yeah, I shifted gears, man. I went to school for exercise science, and I didn't even really know exactly what I was going to do with that. That led into some internships with performance work, then some general, personal training. And then the real shift for me actually was I injured my back exercising, and I ended up getting some rehab work done at a local rehab studio. And that's where I really met one of my core mentors. And I ended up working there as a corrective exercise specialist. So that really kind of shifted gears for me. And I've just been always involved I like being active. And then I've always had a passion to make an impact. And that was really the bridge of the two, because when I really got on the rehab side, I got to see really definitive impact as far as somebody being able to feel better. Then as I move more into the lifestyle side, is getting people to actually like create real habit change. And whether that's weight loss, physique change, whatever it is, there's something really exciting about seeing somebody step into it and feel really good. Like it's really a fulfilling thing. And I think everybody's experienced this in their life at some point. Like when you help somebody do something, you feel really good about it and it's cool. So that was the bridge. It was the bridge of, I like this, the passion of health, fitness, exercise, being active, coupled with like, I get to actually make an impact, where I couldn't imagine sitting in an accounting class or then now having a job as an accountant for Kmart or Target. And like, I wouldn't know, like, what am I doing? What's that impact?
Train people one-on-one, or are you doing like group sessions? How do you usually go about that?
I've kind of done it all except for group. That's one thing I really have never done. So all my work at this point has really shifted online. The only work I would do in person would be corrective and basically like if I'm optimizing somebody's biomechanics, like if they're an athlete, or again, corrective exercise, like they've been injured. But here's the problem with like the personal training model and why I actually shifted gears from it. For somebody who is trying to say, lose weight, right? They go get the personal trainer. They show up and say, okay, I'm here to do my workout. Trainer takes them through it. And I did this for years, a long time ago. And the problem is it pacifies people. And I can't tell you how many clients I had that didn't have success. I had ones that did, and other trainers that I talked to that saw the same issues, as far as then they would go off on their own. 3 months later, they put the weight back on. They're not actually doing the action anymore. And the reality is there's just not a level of empowerment that takes place. There's a level of pacification, because you do not have to step up and do the work. It's, I'm going to show up and have you take me through it. So there's no real growth there from like a personal development side. When I shifted gears to the online model, which is now I do all the corrective exercise through video work, and we co-create a path to create a new lifestyle for you. I have way more positive change and lasting change, because we're actually working on you as a person doing the work, rather than giving me, the trainer, the control and the power. And I see so many people that have struggled with that. To give you an example, I remember when I was doing more personal training, I was working with a client who, he's having some success, and he goes, well, Luke, this is easy for you because you're a fitness guy. And I go, okay. And I'm like, dude, you're here 3 days a week with me working out. I'm like, I'm only working out like 3 days a week. you're following my nutritional philosophy, so we kind of do the same thing nutritionally. You're a fitness guy. But he never stepped into it from an identity standpoint. And part of that was because I had the control. He was only able to do it because me taking him through the workout. He didn't really step in and take ownership and be empowered. So that was really the antithesis for like shifting into more of a lifestyle online model, because I can get people to have real change, like real change in the core of who they are and becoming somebody who exercises rather than becoming somebody who goes, sees their trainer, checks the box, and doesn't get an actual result.
That's fucking infuriating sometimes. And not for the reasons people may think. Like, people look at me sometimes, and I don't consider myself, I mean, fuck, I'm not, you're not going to find a statue in a European museum that looks like me for the most part.
You're pretty fit.
No, I mean, I'm fit, but it's like people have made comments like they have with you, like, oh, well, it's easy for you. Like, no, like, okay, I have a slender frame, but there's diet, there's rest, there's all these other components. And, you know, what I try to impress upon people is just what's sustainable, man. So I love that you are employing technology into that to make it, you know, there's so many benefits of that. But one thing I was wondering about, dude, is how do you impress on people the importance of making that life, you know, how do you put the emphasis on lifestyle with these people and have it sink in?
It's tough, man, because you're battling an industry that is selling bullshit. Truthfully, there's so much quick fix stuff out there. And oftentimes this is just having honest conversations with people, truthfully, and like really letting them know like what honest results really look like. I share this, I feel like, every time I'm on a podcast, but it just became even more relevant yesterday. So just a few days ago, I shared a post of a picture of me that looks like a fairly good physique transformation. And it was from an article that I wrote 2 years ago for the Huffington Post called "The Shocking Truth About Before and After Transformation Photos." And what I did is I basically, using a little bit of lighting, a pump, and some postural distortions, I made a fake before and after photo. Okay. Now, when I ask people, how long do you think this picture, this transformation was, the average guess I get is about 6 months. And visually, if you look at it, I'm like, it's actually not a bad guess, but it was actually 3 hours. And I did this to show, I go, this is what I think the majority of supplement and programs, anything that is offering, truthfully, any quick fix, because there is scientifically, like, your physiology is real. You can only lose fat and build muscle so fast. There's a physiological limit. So I created this article to kind of highlight what I think a lot of supplement companies and detox teas and all the BS that people fall for, and show that it can be done. Because I can even lose I've lost 16 pounds in 24 hours for a jiu-jitsu competition using dehydration techniques. I know people that have done 22. So you can lose, I could change the scale weight. And what's funny about this is just the other day, I'm literally at jiu-jitsu class. And the guy I'm grappling with, right before we start, we shake hands and he goes, "Hey man, do you take Rad 140? And I'm like, "What the hell is Rad 140? And he goes, "Oh dude, I saw your before and after photos on their ad." And I go, "Huh?" So if I Google Rad 140 right now, I am being used as their before and after photo on 2 different websites in a video that's on YouTube. And the best part is the photos they're using are freaking fake. They're not even my real transformation photos. So they're stealing people's photos that aren't even, and this is the second time this has happened. I had another woman who's an isogenic salesman take that same photo. Again, the hilarity of this is it is a faked photo. It is not my real transformation. And, she put it on Facebook, and all of a sudden Facebook said, "Would you like to be tagged by Maria?" And I'm like, "Who's Maria?" And I go, and there's that photo saying, "I can help you with these." So I know that there is, I show people that. I have to have people look at this article and read it. And we have to have an honest conversation and realize you didn't put on weight real fast, and you're not going to necessarily lose it really fast. And there's some advantages to losing it slower. For people who are trying to crash diet, what you have to understand is if you take off weight real quick, you're also going to burn through muscle mass, not just adipose tissue. The end result And I have a gentleman working with me right now who, when he reached out to me, he's like, he's 20 pounds down. And he goes, he goes, I don't feel like I look much different. I'm like, yeah, you kind of look the same, because I'd say half of what he lost was muscle mass and half was fat mass. So the scale's smaller, but he kind of looks the same. So if you're after actual body composition change, you actually do want to do it a little bit slower. So even if there was this quick fix that could radically make you lose all this weight, well, you're going to be losing muscle mass with it. In result, you won't like how you look.
Have you ever seen Chris Bell's documentary, Bigger, Better, Bigger, Faster, Stronger?
No, but I know it. I know of it.
There was one segment of it where they took a guy, there's a supplement company, I forget the name, but they took a guy who was clearly on steroids. He was juicing. And he admitted to it also. And they had lighting, they had, they photoshopped it. They had him on a beach with some very attractive woman, and they were using him as a tool to promote sales. And that's just a different level of dishonesty.
Totally.
But yeah, like it's like a trick, because I hear women talk about, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds for a wedding, or a guy's like, I want to, I have this, whatever kind of goal is. And I always ask people, especially if they come my way, it's like, okay, where do you get that number from? Where do you get that number from? Why is 10 pounds significant? Is it a good conversation piece? Is there a certain garment you want to fit into? Like, what's functional about what you're trying to do? Isn't it better that you do something over a long period of time that's become easier? But I think one thing you could help with, dude, is like define lifestyle. Maybe people, they just flies. What if you're defining lifestyle through the lens of fitness, how would you describe that for people?
My whole business and framework and podcast and everything I have, I call it the Live Great lifestyle. And here's the framework of what I'm trying to kind of share with the world, if you will. And again, everything's flexible, because you, super fit looking guy who's maybe getting after it, or, maybe right now I'm getting back into jujitsu and it's going to lean a little heavier one way. But to me, I'm really only concerned with what can we do in the long haul. If you can't do it for a year, what's the point of doing it for a week? Right? And so for most people, the average person, if you want to look good, meaning carry a decent level of muscle mass and be fairly lean, and if you want to have lots of energy, confidence, all the stuff that comes with stepping into, again, a lifestyle, it's not as aggressive as I think most people think. And this is the thing I'm always trying to hammer home. Most people over-exaggerate how much it takes to lose weight, get fit, feel good, all the stuff that comes with it. And they undervalue the benefit of it. So here's the framework of what I would tell somebody, like, if you could do this, you're going to see some really tremendous results. And I would say we need to have movement on most days of the week. Now, movement sometimes gets substituted for cardio. Now, I don't know about you, but the idea of going and slaving away on a treadmill sounds terrible. But instead, you could probably go for a hike and get almost the same value. Maybe you go run routes with your kid and you play football. But instead of just tossing it and your kid's running routes, you run the route too, right? Or you're going to go do swing lessons. For me, it's jujitsu. Maybe it's surfing. There's hundreds of things that you could actually call fun that we want to do on most days. We want to just be active humans, right? We want to not sit on our asses. That's one pillar. The other pillar is then resistance training. Resistance training is going to be the simplest tool to make a positive impact on your physique. And I'd actually just challenge people to try to do it 3 to 4 times a week. Now, that's scalable. There's going to be days and weeks in your life where things are super busy, you're traveling for business. Do it twice. Great. Maybe you got a week where you're really getting after it and you do it 5 times. But really, if you settle on that 3 days a week, you're going to have some good results. And then, of course, we have to get some semblance of a nutritional, I don't even want to say plan, but template or philosophy or framework that we kind of navigate life with. And if we do that, this is something that now it is a way of being. It's no longer this, I'm on a diet, I'm on a workout plan. It's something that you could really do for the rest of your life. That's the lifestyle. It's not taking away from your life. It's adding value, because you have more confidence. You feel better. You sleep better. You have more energy. And it's like, well, why the hell wouldn't I do this? That's my rant.
No, it's you. I mean, first off, you are not saying anything that hasn't been said
right
tens of thousands of times. There's a simple equation, which I want you to go into later. But yeah, I mean, and I don't want to sound like I'm banging on women, but it's like I've had female friends that say, what do I do? I want to, I want to get fit. I want to blah, 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 fill in the blank. And one of the first things I tell them is what you said, a person who is a fitness professional. I say, you got to work in some resistance training in your regimen. And then they say, I don't want to get big and bulky like the She-Hulk. And to which I always say, do you know how hard it is to build new muscle?
Can I touch on that real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
For those ladies. So here's some like the science behind that. So the value of doing resistance training. So say you're a woman who's trying to lose some weight and you don't want to get big. You use the same analogy I would. It's like, I've been trying to get big for 18 years and it hasn't happened. And I got testosterone in my playbook. So it's not really going to happen. But the reality is, if you're looking to lose weight, you do have to be in a caloric deficit. Okay. Now, if we're in a caloric deficit, the idea of bringing resistance training in is to then support and maintain the muscle mass that you do have. Because most likely what will happen, you're going to atrophy some muscle mass while you're in that deficit. So the resistance training is actually help you maintain that muscle mass. So while you do cut body fat, you hold on to your muscles. So then you then have that lean physique that you actually want. So the likelihood that if you're in a deficit that you're also going to be building muscle is a very challenging thing to do, and most people aren't going to be in it. Now, if you are lifting and you're like, man, I'm just getting huge, well, then you're probably not in a deficit. You're eating too much food at that point, the intake. So yeah, I have that same argument with women oftentimes, and the reality is take some measurements, put a tape measure to it, because I have had clients like that where 2 weeks in, they're like, I feel like I'm getting kind of bulky, and they wanted to stop. And it's like, well, let's put some data on that. Tape measure, they're down on a 1/4 inch. It's like, hey, look at that.
Digging a little bit deeper on that, the one thing I tell them is like, well, there's other benefits to resistance training. I say, well, there's this thing called your skeleton that you help your bone density, your longer prospects of having a healthier level of bone density, your fucking tissues, your cartilage, your joints. Would you, fitness guy who I'm talking to, would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's definitely, and it's going to happen more at the younger years, where if by using some overload, you're going to basically create higher levels of bone density to deal with things like osteoporosis. So that caps usually, I think, around like 30. But the big one to me is what you're doing is you're building strength to support proper positioning and proper biomechanics, which is going to save you from going into degenerative movement patterns, which then would be create things like osteoarthritis, where we're simply just moving improperly. We're jamming on joints. This is posturally significant. So again, if you can think of that person with like hunched shoulders, well, if they don't have the strength to hold the scapula down and back, that shoulder's now set to be in an impinged position. So now the likelihood of injury goes up. So yeah, your muscle mass is the supporting system that takes you through this world.
Degenerative, what was the term again?
So if you're going to have like degenerative movement patterns, meaning think of how we all picture the old hunched over man and walking. So there's a level of, most likely with that guy, he lost muscle mass, he's losing range of motion, and now he's going into some dysfunctional, or I would say like even degenerative movement patterns. So a great example would be somebody when they do a lunge that their knee collapses in past their midline. It's like that's stressing the soft tissue ligaments, their meniscus, the MCL is going to be getting stressed. So if you move improperly, you are stressing soft tissue, and you're at a higher risk for soft tissue injuries. If you have a higher level of strength, you have a better chance of having proper movement patterns.
You're talking about this repetition of poor movement or posture exponentially over the duration of a person's lifetime, or until there's an injury.
As we age, there is a thing called sarcopenia, where we are going to lose muscle mass as we age. Like there's not a lot of 90-year-olds that are super buff, right? But yeah, so having muscle mass is probably one of the most advantageous things that you can do for the longevity of your physical health. Again, every time you go up a flight of stairs, like that's a quote unquote step up, right? Every time you get up off of the ground, that would be the same movement pattern that is a lunge. Every time you get up off of the toilet or a chair, that is a squat. So a lot of the exercises, truthfully, they should be mimicking movement patterns for life. So again, this isn't just vanity stuff or like, hey, I want to look good. This is having strength to get you through life, man. This is the vehicle that takes you on this journey. And by having a stronger musculoskeletal system, you're going to have a better journey for sure.
I was at the gym this morning and I was having a conversation with two of the employees. And one of the things I said, one of the ways I define my fitness is, can I fight and fend somebody off? Can I run for my life? Like, can I climb a wall and a couple of other factors? So that kind of fits into the functionality of what you're talking about.
I like that.
And you being a jiu-jitsu guy, I know you can kind of relate.
Yeah.
What can we, so for people who are uninformed and they just don't know, the people don't know what they don't know sometimes. Mm-hmm. What can we tell people to factor in about body type?
Worry less about training for your body type, more in the sense of, again, I think there's going to be a lot of gimmicks around that, but I do think you have to be realistic with what your body type is, so you have a better expectation of what's going to happen. So take me, I'm a 6'1", skinny, lanky, Northern European descent guy. Like, I'm not going to get huge, right? I naturally am lean. So muscle mass is going to come on slow. Well, I have that knowledge and I have that expectation and I'm okay with that. Versus if my goal in my head that I'm thinking I want to look like The Rock, realistically from a genetic and time frame, like if there's a lot more volume that would have to take place in that training regimen to get there, and it truthfully would never genetically happen. So I do think setting some expectations on, what is your, I think there's a genetic component, but you can look at your frame, right? Like, man, I feel bad for the kid who's 5'5" and his dream is to be a center in the NBA. Like, it's not happening, bro. So I wouldn't worry so much about training differences, but I would have maybe some expectations. If you're naturally a bigger person, like, yeah, weight loss is maybe going to be, you getting super lean. If you're naturally a heavier person, it may take so much diligence in your diet, so much training volume that you maybe don't get down to 7% body fat, but maybe you can get down to 10% body fat where you feel and function really well. Then there's going to be the other guy like me who I can get down to 7, even 6.5% body fat and maintain it within, my lifestyle that I still enjoy, but I'm never probably going to be a 240-pound muscular guy. Right. So it's more just understanding where you're at and then having, I think, the right expectation.
That makes total sense.
I wouldn't limit like your work ethic based on that, but having a little bit of a reasonable idea of where you're going to end up.
You have the perfect analogy for somebody with a smaller, leaner frame trying to get the width of The Rock. And I feel like I'm Bill Burr with my rant and yelling. I never do this, dude, but it's like really interesting to me. But like with a person, I'm not going to put a gender to it, but a person who is naturally very wide, like, I forget, is that the ectomorph?
Yes. You're with me. I'm like ecto or endo? Ecto.
And so if you're naturally a wider frame person and you're trying to get the narrow dimensions of a very slender person, it's like, well, there's this thing called your skeleton that's going to be a big factor in defining that. It's like, why try to do that versus what you're advocating is being lean and as muscular as possible.
I would even say flip it in your head of forget the result for a minute and instead get committed to the action and see what the result is. Maybe it's beyond what you even think it could be, and it very well could be. Again, I don't want anybody to short sell themselves. You could probably get way beyond what you think. But if you get committed to where like, hey, the goal right now is just to get those workouts in, get the nutrition in, and let's see what the result is. Because, man, again, take somebody who's naturally a little bit like beefier that could get muscular really easy. So, growing up, I had two other friends. My one buddy, he's the ecto or the endo. He's the big guy. He was the sack leader and, at school, and he set the records for the state. And then there's the other guy that was the meso. he didn't have to do much and he'd get jacked, but he could still be ripped. I was the beanpole. I'm like, well, I got abs, but that's not impressing anybody because I hadn't, I'm a twig. And for the guy on the big guy, for him to get down and get super lean, like he can do it, but can he maintain it? So instead, focus on what can you maintain from a lifestyle strategy standpoint, right? What are the exercises that you can commit to, those minimum guaranteed standards that you're going to do? What's the diet that you actually enjoy and can maintain? And let's see what that result is, because maybe it's something that you really like. And if not, when you get to that point where you've made those actions, then you can start diving into like the top of the pyramid stuff where you're really going to like go at it. But don't get focused so much that like, oh shit, I can't get down to 6% body fat because I'm naturally a big dude that I'm not even going to get started.
Like for, I guess, you and I, guys who played sports in the past, it's not that, it's probably easier to maintain fitness or just reimmerse yourself in the fitness because you've probably done so much in your lifetime. For the person who is looking to make long-term sustainable lifestyle changes that factors in fitness, diet, and rest, like what is your general equation without like kind of oversharing with your services are to your client? What's a good starting point for those kind of people?
I'm happy to overshare, man. If I can get somebody,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get somebody to do it without me, that's brilliant. I would love that.
Okay.
And it's kind of what I said earlier, as far as that framework of, 3 workouts a week, they can be full body, but ultimately, like, start where you're at. And what is the minimum standard? So this is my coaching protocol when I do work with people. We're going to set the guaranteed minimum standards, like guaranteed no bullshit standard that you're going to hit. So like, what's going on in your world? We have 2 friends right now that are coming home and they're going to have their brand new baby with them today or tomorrow. His life and his bandwidth is going to change drastically, right? So to think that guy who's now father to a 1-day-old is going to have the same workout routine as 22-year-old, which is going to be the same as the CEO or the entrepreneurs that I work with, it's not realistic. So what's the minimum guaranteed standard? And the reason we want to have this guaranteed standard is we're trying to build congruency with ourselves. So while I say, let's try to get 3 to 4 workouts in a week, if that's not realistic, let's get 2 and start slow and get some momentum, because once you get it, and as a guy who works out, you understand this, there's a reason people do all this. And it's because they feel fucking awesome, right? They like that they look good. The looks get them in it. It's how they feel that keeps them pushing through, right? So you have this tremendous reward once you step into this. So it will become self-fulfilling. You'll start to carve out new time and find a way to get an additional workout in, because again, you get such a tremendous return on that investment. You will be more productive. So you actually bought time back. You're maybe more clear energy if you're a business person. So again, you're buying time back. So it really is the minimum standard wherever you're at right now. But I would suggest start slow. The person who right now it's January and you're like, I'm going to go crush it and do 30 days in a row, I'll probably be talking to you again next January. That's just what I've seen. I would say, again, let's get you down to like 3 times a week, twice a week, if that's what it takes. So that's again, going back to that framework that I shared earlier, but like, that's really where we're trying to get people. It's just, how do we get people there becomes very individualized.
What about with, I think some people genuinely don't know what to do, and that spills over into not knowing what or how to eat or drink.
Very simple. Probably food is like the most simple thing we have managed to complicate. But I will start with this. Total calories are going to control your weight. So if you want to lose weight, you do have to be in a deficit. Again, I kind of shared why you don't want to go super hard and try to starve yourself down, because you're going to lose muscle mass and you won't look as good. But you do have to be in a deficit. So now here becomes the very difficult question that requires a little bit of introspection. How do you best get into a deficit? For some people, that's going to be, maybe you need to count and track your calories. If you're super type A, you like data, go track your calories. You're going to love that. Me, if you hate numbers, I'm like, oh God, this sucks. I have another friend who, he came on my podcast. He's down 150 pounds because he did keto. Now, did keto create the weight loss? No. It just allowed him to most effortlessly get in and maintain a deficit, right? That's all it was. So for him, it was an easier way of eating. I have other clients that we transition to just portion control using hand measuring, right? If you can figure out, I mean, there's hundreds of ways to skin the cat. Maybe you need to be somebody who it's like, hey, I found my caloric maintenance, meaning I'm not gaining weight and I'm not losing weight. You're at a caloric maintenance. And if you start to just look at, hey, I eat mostly the same things most times of the week, you can now start to chisel some things out to start to create that deficit. So total calories control your weight, but I will say this, what you eat tends to control how much you eat. French fries or asparagus, what are you going to eat more of?
Well, fuck. I mean, yeah.
Right?
It's like people, we crave the bad shit. And if I'm having, if I'm having 25, 21 meals a week and 20 are good meals of high nutritional value, then I'm probably doing okay or whatever. But like, give an example of what some good portions, some sample meals are, some good portions, because again, I have a friend who was trying to lose weight, and then he tells me, yeah, I said, well, what did you eat? And he said, I had like a chicken tomato. I said, dude, stop. Why do you think that was healthy? He said, well, it's chicken. Like, okay, well, I can fucking, make a donut crust surrounded around chicken, but because it's chicken in there doesn't make it healthy. So please describe to people, what is it like? What's a good healthy meal for you?
I actually do prefer, and again, I won't go into go do your own Googling on this. So I am a pro red meat person. So for me, a very average meal, and this is again the framework of the template that I'm going to lean into the most, is a protein and produce meal, right? So if I look at my plate, it is going to be a protein and produce. So right before actually we got on this, I had jammed to Whole Foods right after jiu-jitsu practice, after I got back from LA, and hit Whole Foods, and I got some, I think it was like this roasted pork and apples, and then roasted cauliflower and broccoli. But it's like not boring like I just made it sound, because the cauliflower's got this curry flavor. The broccoli was sauteed in olive oil and garlic. It's like super flavorful. But like that's my framework of this giant portion on my plate of produce topped with a fairly hefty size of protein. And that's going to make up the general framework of what I eat. Now, the problem where people get stuck on this, and if you want to call that paleo or paleo-ish, that's fine. But people do need to understand, like if you said 21 out of 20 meals is great, I can still have some latitude to maybe sneak in something that's quote unquote bad. And this is the problem that I think most people fall into the trap. Having again, because total calories are going to control my weight, that's all I've eaten today, because I drove back from LA. I went to jiu-jitsu practice on an empty stomach. So I expelled calories. Like, I'm actually behind the ball right now. So say I wanted to have a little bit of quote unquote bad food, like name it, cinnamon raisin bagel right now, I probably actually have the space to have that in my total calories right now. So people do have to give themselves a little bit of leeway and understand it doesn't have to be perfect. You can occasionally indulge. You probably should for your sanity. And one bad meal, or even one bad snack or one bad meal, it's not going to ruin your weight loss efforts. It really is the cumulative effect of your habits. And most people, unfortunately, they live and thrive on, oh shit, I messed up. I can't believe I ate this. Oh, well, fuck it. Give me more. Avoid literally I call it the oh, well, fuck it. If you can avoid that, like, you're probably going to have success.
I'm on board with you. I think what would help people is for some to understand the role of protein and the role of a good carb, a complex carb, and fruits and vegetables, and your good fats. What are the role of those different food types for people? So hopefully somebody can not just look at it from a taste standpoint, but understand the role that these different foods have.
First, little asterisk or warning, I'm not a nutritionist, so keep that in mind. go do your own research. But in short, protein, you're going to basically look and eat to maintain and support your muscle fiber. Now, there are some other values of eating protein. Protein has a higher thermic effect. What that means is when you eat food of any kind, you actually burn calories to digest that food, right? Just like literally growing your fingernails or blinking requires calories to be used. Breathing is actually using calories. So protein does have one advantage in that it has a higher thermic effect, meaning it requires more calories to digest it compared to carbohydrate and fat. So I don't want to say it's free calories. It's not, but you actually are getting more bang for your buck through that digestion. So there is some value to protein beyond just the muscle sparing effect. Then we go into more of our energy systems of carbohydrate and fat. So carbs and fat are basically what you're going to use for energy. Now, carbs are going to have 4 calories per gram. And if you just, for a measurement, think of a gram as like an eraser head on a pencil. So for every carb, you're going to get 4 calories out of that gram. With fat, you're going to get 9 calories out of that gram. So fat does become more calorically dense. So, if you want to cut some calories, obviously if you remove some fat, you're going to remove bigger chunks of it. But you actually need fat and usually carbohydrate, unless we get into the ketogenic diet. Fat is going to basically support your hormones. You're going to use that to create your sex hormones and other hormones in your body. So you need to have some levels of fat. This could be olive oil. This could be avocados, coconut oils. Saturated fat for me is steak fat, right? I'm okay with that. And then carbohydrate we're going to use for energy to go out and do the workouts and go on your hikes and go play with your kids. That essentially, whether it's say an apple or I hate to even say some bread, some fruit, some berries, those are going to support and provide energy so you can go out and do life. Now, again, if we said ketogenic, we would shift that. We would get rid of carbohydrate. We bring up the fats, and now fat become our primary energy system. But let's just remember, again, we're not magically losing weight on keto. We're only losing weight on keto because we still got into a deficit. So, full side note. But yeah, that's kind of the role. So, I tell people, if I were actually trying to lose weight, or when I do, I bet I consistently eat more junk food when I'm trying to lose weight.
Why is that?
I would say, and again, I don't often have to try to lose weight, right? But there's times where it's like, I've been up 10 pounds and I'm going to diet down. I have found that when I'm trying to strategically be in that deficit, I do find myself craving more things. So I know how to strategically give into that craving. And I'll go have like a little piece of chocolate or even like a little toffee bar. And I bet I actually do that more consistently when I'm trying to lose weight, truthfully, which seems backwards, right? But the reality is those calories are just that. They're just calories. So I'm not married to the idea that this is bad and it's going to make me gain weight, because it's not. And here's a great example that people can think of. So Kind bars. You know what a Kind bar is?
No.
So Kind bars are like a fruit.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so most people think of those as like a healthy food, right? It's marketed as like, oh, this is like the healthy bar to get. Well, I can go grab one of those and it's going to have 200 calories in it. And it has, say, like 7 grams of sugar and 5 grams of protein or whatever. Or there's a little toffee bar at my grocery store called Amy's, and it has 150 calories. Now, it has more sugar and it has less protein, but at the end of the day, that's a pretty damn near close swap. And rather than saying I'm going to have the Kind bar and thinking I'm doing something healthy for me, I recognize like it's just calories at that point. And every once in a while, I'll pacify that craving with a little bit of like a toffee bar, where most people would take the Kind bar and then maybe because it's healthy in their mind, maybe they have 2 of them or even a third later. And all of a sudden now you're 600 calories deep on health bars, quote unquote health bars. And you didn't really even satisfy kind of the sweet tooth that you were trying to satisfy. So again, these are just personal strategies, right? It's a different way to get somebody there. But I do think it's important for people to understand that you can strategically sneak the occasional quote unquote junk food in. And it's not going to ruin your diet. It's not going to ruin your health. And people don't have to be married to this complete all or nothing idea. Now, the flip side of that, to play devil's advocate, is if somebody is doing this, and at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I'm not losing weight. And it's like, well, you got to tighten it up a little bit then, because you're not being honest with how much you're sneaking in. You know? So don't get married to the idea that it has to be completely perfect as far as the health foods. But for the most part, man, yeah, eat whole unprocessed foods, and it's going to be really effortlessly and easy to get there.
I'm glad that you implore people to Google and, especially if,
I'm a moron. Don't listen to me.
Well, it's like, on one hand, it's like, yeah, I'm not a dietitian, although I may know what generally works. It's like, yeah, do your own research. If you're going in the store and you're looking at a nutrition bar or whatever, it's like, flip it over and look at the sugar content. Like, one of the things I tell people who are interested is like, man, to drink more water. Like, instead of having some kind of sugary drink with all your meals, have water.
If you're trying to lose weight, you do gotta get into a caloric deficit. And it's like, so, I'm drinking an electrolyte water mix right now. It actually tastes fairly good. And yeah, if you have 200 calorie drink, it's like, hey, it didn't fill you up at all. It didn't do a dent on your physical hunger, right? Like, it didn't fill your stomach, and it probably hormonally didn't trigger off a lot of a hormonal response to tell you that you're full, and it's kind of wasted calories. So that's an easy, very first step for somebody if they're trying to, like, man, I just need to instill some habits. It's like, cool, let's just drink water instead of, pop or whatever, or even orange juice, right? Like, there's a very easy little thing to do.
Is there value of maybe finding some activities that you like, that you can commit to, or actually changing up your physical regimen periodically?
I don't think, like, muscle confusion gets thrown around a lot, and that you need to constantly vary what you're doing. That's probably not as important, again, for a body composition change as actually utilizing good strength training with progressive overload. And progressive overload is the idea that we're just doing more over time. That could be more reps, more sets, or more weight. Or there's a few other factors that we could manipulate. That's probably a better approach to get there than constantly thinking that you need to vary it up to keep your body guessing. Your muscles aren't confused at that point, your mind is. So, if you're somebody who's starting off and right now you can just do a body weight lunge, and you're doing that for a few weeks, rather than saying, I need to mix this up, I'm going to go do Pilates now, you probably would get more value by now adding a load of 10 pounds and then the following week 15 pounds, and going through what's called progressive overload to, again, challenge that musculoskeletal system within the kind of confines of some good foundational strength exercises. That's probably a better way of getting there in the long haul. As far as the enjoyment factor, you hit on something that's very important. Again, from an efficiency standpoint, you really can't beat resistance training, but from an enjoyment standpoint, you could maybe help along the way by changing the environment. I work out on my deck. I don't even go to a gym, right? Like, it's January. I'm gonna go to 24-hour fitness with 6,000 people. Hell no. So maybe location, maybe a training partner. There's different ways to take the best strategies and then how do we integrate them into your life. As far as movement, though, what we talked about earlier, definitely, man, make it fun. Like, oh my God, so many people set themselves up for failure. I'm going to go run a marathon. Cool. Do you like running? No, I hate running. Well, awesome. Sounds like a long-term plan. Well, instead, but do you like hiking? Like, yeah, I love being out in the woods. Great. Go do that. Or I like biking. Okay. Well, why don't you go bike instead of run when you hate running and you like biking?
I get it. Like, I had somebody, people get they get very ambitious and excited with, the newness of a new program. And I've had somebody says, I'm going to go twice a day. What do you think of that? Say, well, if you have the energy and the natural motor, but I said, I wouldn't really recommend it because you're going to get burnt out. Maybe you're going to get injured. And I was like, why do you have to rush through this?
Great question to ask, actually. That's a really powerful question. I think to ask somebody. I like that. And yeah, man, two a days of workouts, going from zero to hero. Most often, in my opinion and experience of what I've seen, is not going to be the best recipe for success. Again, it's probably an inefficient route of getting there as well. So I kind of talked about this on my podcast recently. If you're going to work out, let's define working out right now to just right now, gym work, resistance training, right? Again, I'm going to remove movement from working out. Like, don't call going and playing football with your kid working out. It's life. Enjoy it. You're having fun, right? So the workout portion, if you were to do 2 a days, at some point, I think it's getting redundant on the musculoskeletal system to where you're breaking down tissue and not repairing it, and then you're breaking down tissue again. Even if you did a bodybuilder split of, like, say 7 days a week where you work a different muscle group, so now every muscle group has a rest period. If you're just starting out, there's no way you need or probably can tolerate that much volume per muscle group. Meaning, if you came with me day one and said, hey, I want to do a 7-day split and I take you through a leg workout, I'm going to smash you and you won't be able to walk for 3 days. It's like, well, what's the value in that? Now you're deterred because you're like, well, this fucking sucks. I'm in physical pain. So where's the joy and the value in this? So that 2 days a week, I think, again, is people trying to expedite a process that probably can't really get done a whole lot faster. Leads to burnout. They quit, when really, if you would have spaced that over 3 months, that little sprint that you're going to do for 30 days, if you space that over 3 months, at the end of those 3 months, you're the guy that you wanted to be versus the guy who's starting over.
I've had a friend, we would get into these conversations, and he virtually the only athletic, and this is not an indictment on him, it's more of an observation, is I've been around enough athletes to get a general idea of what it takes to gain a good level of fitness, sustain it, and then lose it. And one of the interesting conversations, it's more like a ridiculous conversation we would have, is about some of the entertainers who go from not fit to suddenly very fit. And the thing that comes up, I go, dude, he is on steroids. He's juicing. How do you know? Like, dude, this guy in his last movie was built like, I'm not going to body shame anybody. I said he wasn't fit. And now he's ripped and he has this bulk, like somebody who's, playing cornerback for the 49ers or whatever. He or she is, they're doing some illegal drugs. And I don't care, but I was like, to get that body in 6 weeks is not a natural, sustainable thing.
Nope.
So that's my fucking rant, but that's a good segue for supplements. What is your position on supplements if your clients are looking for some type of counsel on that?
The first thing with all supplements, don't take Rad 140, whatever that bullshit is.
And they'll also put your picture on the internet without your permission.
Oh my God, so crazy. So supplements, there's a very easy starting conversation to have with this. So, like, I do take supplements. Supplements are a tool of convenience. That's it. There's not going to expedite any of your results, really. But if you look at the marketing on most supplements, you're going to think, holy shit, this is the reason that I'm not where I want to be. And this is the missing piece. But that's just not true. So think of supplements as simply tools to expedite the convenience factor. So case in point, a protein powder, if you were to look at the bottle or the marketing, you're going to think, holy shit, man, if I take this, I'm just going to explode with muscles and look like the Hulk. Like, this is what I need to do. I mean, it's literally called Explode, right? Like, we have these, crazy even names. All a protein powder is, it's a liquid chicken breast. That's all it is. It's a convenient way to get protein. Now, there's another value I think it does have is they taste really good. So you can, again, maybe pacify a little bit of like a dessert and pleasure from like a good chocolate protein shake. That's great. So I like that. I use a greens powder. This is just a way to, again, source phytochemicals, vitamins, and minerals. And it's just a condensed powder of vegetables. What would probably be a better route would be to eat a ton of vegetables. But there's days like I'm traveling. I was just back, I was just driving down from LA, and it's like, it's an easy thing, a tool to fill in a gap. Same thing with, I use a joint powder. Again, because of jiu-jitsu, I'm always just getting, we're basically trying to break each other's limbs. And so I take a joint powder that, again, is just to fill the gap on some things that I'm going to try to actually get through my general nutrition. Electrolytes, right? Same thing. So I think that's the big one. As long as you understand that a supplement is really just a tool of convenience or to fill a gap in your nutrition, but it's not going to really expedite the process of muscle building or fat loss, then I think you're probably okay if you approach it from that framework, really, no matter where you're looking.
Funny, I was having a conversation last night, and this person was telling me how somebody started taking steroids, and it's like, well, did you notice any improvements in the physique? And they were like, no. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, you still have to fucking work out and rest and have a diet. And like, there's no magic bullet for none of that shit. It's like your body is an organism like a plant, and that plant needs to be nourished and get sunlight and all these other elements that promote growth and vitality and all this other horse shit. This is the most I've yelled on my podcast ever, dude. Let me just make an observation on that.
I love it because, believe me, I have a love-hate with this industry, again, as I'm finding my own photos using to like promote complete nonsense. Literally yesterday, somebody in jiu-jitsu is telling me this, and I'm passionate about it as well, because the reality is it's so impactful, man. And like, so I'm going to segue just a second, but like, there is value in doing really hard, intense workouts. Okay. But that's not where you start. And the value of that is in your mind. Like, it is so, I mean, is the easiest tool to change your mind is to go break yourself physically, but you don't want to start there. But I have my long battle that I've been doing in this industry is there's so many people on the sidelines that are looking at people in this industry, again, fitness models, fitness professionals who have become obsessed with exercise, which is great, right? Like, got obsessed with like a really healthy activity, but it's put a lot of people on the sidelines who think this can't work for me. When the reality is, it is your God-given right as a human animal to show up healthy, vibrant, and energetic. This is the default state you should be operating at, and everything else is what's wrong. So there's a confusion of extremes that you have to do this, again, 2-a-day workout, never eat something bad, live like a fitness model, which is not going to work in your lifestyle if, say, you are a traveling CEO where you can't measure everything. And if that inspires somebody to quit because they think that's what they have to do, I think the fitness industry is failing them. Just like the person who's selling a 6-minute ab bullshit supplement. The reality is the middle ground, which is far less sexy, is where it's at. So I'm ranting too.
I'm glad I have like a brother in rant. I don't want to sound like a maniac by myself. You're not really ranting, and you're speaking from more of a trained and clinical point of view. I'm just fucking kind of like a maniac because it just like annoys me sometimes. And it's like I was when I was at the gym earlier, I saw this woman, and she obviously has some cosmetic work done. Like, she had these, legs of a petite woman, and then she had the hind parts, like it was like Kardashian-esque. And
a big old injected ass, huh?
Yeah, and it's it's like, okay, some guys might like that. It's your body, do what you want, but like, isn't it better to just sort of, I don't know. I mean,
work for it? Well,
yeah, and then accept the outcome. If you gave honest effort and a lower body fitness regimen and with diet and everything, then just this whole instant type of gratification thing is bigger than what I'm making it out to be. Is just, I don't know. So what I mean, we talk about diet. What are some things to be conscious of that will torpedo your progress, your long-term progress in terms of, continuing gains, sustaining gains, energy level and everything? What should people be on the lookout for?
Nutritionally, I find there's kind of two things that you need to take inventory on. So what are your fail point foods? Like your personal fail point foods. Mine, every time I try to buy cinnamon raisin bread and I say, I'm going to only have 2 pieces of this, I eat the entire loaf in one day. Right? Like every time. Because I'm like, well, there's four slots in the toaster. So I better put 4 pieces in. And then I'm like, well, I kind of want like one more, but I don't want those other 3 slots to be lonely. So now we're 8 deep for one serving. So like, what are your fail point foods? What are the foods that you know if you're around them, you're going to really struggle to overeat? And then you need to take inventory on that. So like, I'm not going to have cinnamon raisin bread in my house often. Doesn't mean I won't eat it, but I'm going to be able to do it strategically. And here's the strategic way of trying to do this for people is do not practice moderation as an eating strategy because you're relying on willpower, but instead use willpower to practice moderation as a buying strategy. So again, when you do want to occasionally indulge and you want pizza, go to a pizzeria and go get a pizza by the slice, like from the best place. Don't go get a whole pizza because you were full at 3, but you ate 5. Right? So that will take care of I think the big routine foods. And then the other one is keeping an eye on calorie bombs. So calorie bomb foods are single instances of food that, you know, if you did it twice in a week, could actually offset an entire week's worth of work. So here's an example of this. If you were to say, look up Cinnabon, it's like their pecan caramel nut roll or whatever. Like, sounds good. I would probably love that thing. I looked it up. It's like 1,073 calories. I would never have thought it would be that many. I could probably eat 2 of those. That could potentially negate your weeks of deficit, right? So if you can avoid that calorie bomb, what you then could maybe do is say, well, you know what? I'm just going to have like a mini bon that actually had 300 calories. You kind of got that craving filled, but now you stayed in your deficit and you're making progress. So you got to avoid those fail point foods that you know you're going to overeat on. And then you got to really just do due diligence on calorie bombs. And this is particularly true when you're eating out, because something that could seem like, oh, that seems like a healthy thing. And then you're like, holy shit, that had 1,400 calories in there. I need to cut that in half, take it home, have it tomorrow.
Mine is fucking donuts, man. Like, if you put a dozen of Krispy Kremes near me, they will all be gone. And I will have the guilt of a meth addict about 45 minutes later. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm just a bad person.
You know, I'm blessed and cursed in that. So I'm not a celiac, but I get a histamine reaction to wheat. So, meaning like I eventually will get bronchitis. Now, all that means, so, you know, if I can have a little bit, like if you told me like this is the world's best cookie that my mom makes, you gotta try it, I can try it. If I had 2 of them, I'm going to wake up the next day and kind of sniffly. And if I really go to town, it's bronchitis. So what that's done for me is, you know, I just have to eat a gluten-free diet that allows me to avoid wheat. And I've been able to like stay away from most of the bad shit that, you know, we are constantly surrounded by. But the reality is, if I could eat a Krispy Kreme donut, I'm not going to have one Krispy Kreme donut and actually be satisfied. I want another one. So now I'm sitting there and I am using willpower to not do a behavior. And there's a really important article because mindset is probably the biggest thing. And we didn't even touch on it, but like that's the starting point of all this. And there's an article I make all clients read. It's called and you can Google this, The Extraordinary Science of Addictive Junk Food. And it is so important for people to understand why you actually don't get full on certain foods or why you actually want to overeat them. And it's the way that they're manufactured to be so incredibly hyper palatable. They are manufactured on what's called a bliss curve. And this bliss curve is done using split testing, like mathematicians, to find out the exact amount of sodium, salt, fat, sugar, the amount of pressure that your teeth need to create to break through that Krispy Kreme donut to give you the most bliss. Bliss is like this euphoric, like that's like sex, right? And so they have this figured out to where the shape of a chip, the color of the can, all of these things are going to make you want it more. So once you understand this, I think it gives you a little bit of forgiveness on yourself. If you do find yourself thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I ate all that. And you're mad at yourself. And then you go down that rabbit hole of self-guilt and you quit. And really got to realize it wasn't you so much, it was the product. And once you have that, it kind of empowers you because you're like, I don't want to go down that road because I know what that product's doing to me. So Extraordinary Science of Addictive Junk Food. Google that.
Like, it reminds me of, I saw a segment on 60 Minutes, and they were like, it's some sort of dietetic engineering, because this one scientist was breaking down why a McDonald's French fry is so good. It's
Yeah.
all the sampling of the different notes of different foods and altering the flavor profile and the salt content. Like, if and that's why I do this podcast. Like, I want people to understand the world better and connect the dots. If a person understood more deeply, like the way you do, what is going into a lot of the different foods you consume, then you may make different decisions. Like, a lot of this shit that they put in the food in America, dude, they don't allow that in Europe. You can't find some of the foods that we have here in Europe and maybe some other countries because there are different dietary standards.
Sure.
Versus the fiscally driven industries that we have here today. With the remaining time, I want to get into more of you and what the product is that you offer your clients. Tell us about your personal benefits of feeling fit in terms of your energy level, your mental acuity. What are the benefits that you realize on a normal basis?
For me, there's no question that exercise is absolutely an anti-anxiety drug to me. And I didn't realize how much I probably, fortunately, have, having exercise been a focal point of, my life through sport. And it wasn't until injuries that I realized, like, I probably would have dealt with a lot of anxiety and possibly some depressive issues that I don't have to worry about because I mitigate it through exercise. So for me, the well-being of feeling good is the driver. Do I want to have like a physique out of it? Of course, right? But like at 35, I'm not 22. It's not as big of a driver. It really is for me, showing up day in and day out, feeling good to operate at my greatest potential. Like, that's it. And I know this because I think if I'm the last person on the planet, I work out. Right? Like if I was in that Armageddon situation, like I'm still going to go do my workout because I feel good. And then I think there's value in, and this is where I do think there's value in hard exercise or things like jujitsu, getting out of your comfort zone and challenging yourself, because we're simply trying to up-level what our capacity of what we can do is. And exercise is an incredible conduit to show you that personal growth. It is the most simplified way to show you can do and go beyond what you thought was capable. So that is a constant reminder. It is an absolute easy practice of, I don't want to do something that's hard and I'm going to do it when I don't. And what a valuable skill set to have in life. So those are my kind of core drivers of why I'm going to go do it. The stuff that I think is hard and I don't want to do. But the reality is most of it I like, right? Like, I want to go hike. Like, I want to go explore that trail. I find true like peace being out in nature. Like, that is my again, it comes back to feeling and changing my state, and my, getting in the ocean is like a spiritual cleanse to me. Going out in the woods it's lighting me up, man. That's life. So that stuff's very simple. But when it gets to like the more foundational hard workout type stuff, there's a congruency factor of doing things that are hard.
I'm looking at you and what you're broadcasting. You're broadcasting light, confidence, happiness. I have to think a lot of that is a result of your physical regimen, but a result of the mental benefit you're reaping from that. Totally. And if I'm seeing that, then other people seeing that. So it's like, to the person who's feeling despair and feeling downtrodden or whatever, it's like, man, if you can source or develop some kind of physical regimen that elevates your being, imagine the benefits that you're going to realize on a 24-hour cycle for the rest of your life.
We have the greatest tool at our disposal. I mean, think about it. If you're somebody who is like, man, I'm feeling like shit. And dude, I've had days, man. I've had days where, I'm building a business. I have a podcast. I'm trying to do things. I do other crazy shit. I do some acting. I'm doing all these different things, and I have my struggles. And man, I'll tell you, the easiest thing if I'm in that funk, it's like, move your body. And it makes so much sense. You feel anxiety, right? Like you can do, or like you feel depression, like you can do some journaling, right? That's helpful. You can get in your head and start to catch those thoughts through meditation and realize, ooh, I'm having disempowering thoughts. Let's replace that with an empowering one. But at the same time, you're doing that because you want to feel different. The easiest way to feel different is to shake your shit up and move your body, right? And it could be, like silly. If you're somebody who's feeling down and like depressed, dude, go do a haka in your basement by yourself, right? And like, you're going to step away feeling different. So moving your body, I think, is you have access to the easiest tool to completely change your state. And you can do it day in and day out through fun physical activity, through physical stressors that also give you these other benefits of looking good and healthier and all longevity and all the other stuff.
I was talking to my sister, and sometimes she asked me, how you doing? I said, I feel like a god. She said, really? She said, why? I said, because if I'm eating properly and resting properly, and if I'm engaging in the activities that make me naturally happy, and there's not a bunch of toxicity in my environment, then yeah, I usually feel like a god. And I wish more people felt like that. And you reminded me something that I want to get to real quick. Can you help me to address arrogance? And when I'm talking about arrogance, I mean like youthful arrogance that, oh, I'm 21, I can eat whatever I want. Or I'm genetically, a little more fit, so I'm going to eat what I want and drink what I want. I think that's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous emotional path to be on, because I always say nature doesn't give a fuck about your last name, your bank account, where you live. Disease can come to any of our doorsteps. Man, help me to advantage, even if you feel like you have a superior position genetically or whatever the case may be, the advantage of hedging your bet and pursuing a healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. And there are those people, right? But I think we all know those people who were those people and they no longer are, right? Like we all know that person in high school that couldn't put it on a pound, and then, you see him 10, 15 years later. And it is a slow process that creeps up on people, both physically and I think energetically. But I think another way to even just think about that is, I feel that we should all, no matter where we're at, and this is again to where like honor where you are at, right? Like have self-love and pride in where you're at. If you're just starting out, like, hell yeah, you're on the path, versus somebody who's, Olympic level athletes. Like all you're trying to do is look at this as this is just growth of just challenging where you're at. And there should be no end to that. So if you're somebody who is naturally just lean, and it's like, well, take advantage of that. You have a better starting point, but you should always be seeking improvement. And I would also look at it as like, you need to honor the system. Like you have this amazing gift, this amazing meat sack that's going to take you through this journey of life. You need to honor that gift by, I hate to say treating it right, but like by getting everything out of it, which might also mean going and doing a party weekend, get everything out of this thing that we can. And so I think just honoring the gift, man, and always looking to strive for not perfection, but just progress and growth. And that comes from stepping up and doing the things that you're supposed to do.
So let's talk about the service that you provide your clients, the value of it. What are you offering people in terms of methodology, the overall value, benefits? Like, go into however you want to do it. Go into the service that you provide people.
I have kind of two core things. I mean, I do have an online course for people who are motivated enough to be self-guided. I find that is a select few, truthfully. That brings my whole collective knowledge of all the workouts and everything that people need to do to really step into it as a lifestyle, even the adjustments of how we can scale it and bring in accountability calendars. And that's great for some people. And then obviously some other people may need more coaching. But as far as the methodology, it's very simple. And the end result, as far as, it's so hard to describe what feeling good can really do in your life. So my whole goal and mission with people is to help them step into a sustainable lifestyle shift that includes exercise, proper nutrition. Generally, that is going to have a tangible physique goal in the beginning. But as I mentioned, your physique goal will get you into it. How you feel will pull you through it. But then beyond that, it gets very person specific how we integrate those pillars that we spoke about: resistance training, proper diet, lifestyle factors of movement, right? Getting out and doing some fun activity. And then of course, building on our mindset. So what I found to be an effective protocol and how I'm approaching my coaching at this point is I basically do 2-week coaching blocks with people to where we set guaranteed minimum standards. We have shared accountability docs where we co-create what it is that you're going to get done. Because here's where coaching fails. Hey, you're going to work out 6 days this week. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. At 6 a.m. every day. And you're like, oh, okay. And I get you all pumped up on that. But then at the end of the week, you didn't really fulfill. And it's like, well, why didn't you fulfill? You didn't co-create. B, well, you had to take your kids to school and like that didn't work for your schedule. And again, minimum standards. So every 2 weeks, we're going to set those minimum standards, and slowly over time, we're going to install different pieces of that. It could be the resistance training, could be the nutrition, could be movement. And we're slowly going to scale that up over time, progressively. I do all of the exercise through video, through corrective exercise. So again, it can look different for everybody. I got a guy right now, it's like week 3. It's like he's getting more mindset videos that he has to watch, and some forms that he has to submit to, create what's called the big why, which is him crafting out why this is important to him. And then he has to enroll himself in that for 30 days in front of the mirror every day and just build this belief that why it's important for him to step into this. Other people, it could be, hey, we need to spend more time doing mobility work because when I sent you this assessment, your arm only went to here and we need to go to here. So it's none of it's cookie cutter. All of it's one-on-one. But it's really about helping people grow into that greater version of themselves that includes stepping up, doing the work, and becoming somebody who eats healthy, works out consistently, is out being mobile, and feels and looks really good.
The last 3 years of my life has been uncomfortable for various reasons, but it's a good kind of uncomfortable. And my suspicion is that when a person who doesn't come from a fitness background or a fitness world begins to feel uncomfortable, that is somehow being equated with, oh, this is wrong, or I can't do that. So my term for that is being comfortably uncomfortable.
Love it.
A state where you're not feeling, like you're relaxing and that you can comfortably read a book, but you're struggling just enough where you can fulfill a task. What is an acceptable range of discomfort for the person who's really trying to get going from not being fit to being fit, or from being fit to being elite athlete or whatever?
Great question. Tough to answer. So I'll put it this way. When we're talking like lifestyle habits, it's going to be if we are overstretching to where we can't fulfill on it. So again, like, hey, you said you're going to work out 5 days this week. I'm holding you accountable to that. We've got it in the doc. You said you're going to do it. We've mapped out the days even, and then you didn't do it. And then we tried again the next week. Well, we're stretching too far because we're not fulfilling on that. And the problem is now we're building, again, this identity of failure, and we need to move out of that. So we do need to scale that back down to something that we can hit. But as far as overall, from like an overall concept, man, I love it. Like as far as that, we do need to continuously stretch ourselves. And I think there's like 3 areas for people. I think one is physical, right? And again, it can be where are you now, right? Like you probably don't need to start running a marathon if you have not done anything. Like again, get the lifestyle stuff down. A stretch for me, who's somebody who's fairly fit, is like, I would like to compete in jiu-jitsu again this year. Well, what does that mean? That means I have to do more mobility work because I got a messed up knee, and I got to get in class and drill takedowns more. Like there's some things that forces me to take some activity. Obviously we have to talk desire, right? If you're not getting into action, there's a lack of desire. But man, I think comfort zone stretches can come emotionally as well. Again, I mentioned like I do some acting. Like dude, it's terrifying. The first time I went into like to do an acting class, right? And getting up on stage and like, you feel like a fucking idiot, right? And I've like, that's growth. That's being uncomfortable and doing it anyway. And then the next time you go, it's not so uncomfortable. So I don't know that I have a really hard, tangible answer. I will say this, from a physical standpoint, there's not value when you're just beginning to go beat the shit out of your body, because you're going to be just sore. Like there's just, you can't fight against the physiology. But once you get fit, man, there's some strategic ways to stretch that comfort zone that is, I think, awesome. Like, and there's tremendous value there. And I guess this is where doing some hard stuff, but don't start there, right? Like get into where like this is part of your skill set, then go after it. And like, here's one that I love because it's pretty safe, is go do some weighted rucks on an incline. Because the problem with really intense exercise, again, there is going to be usually dysfunctional movement patterns that come with that, because the system will fatigue. Like say you do a push-up challenge where you're going to do 100 push-ups every day for 30 days. And well, you only actually do 20 good push-ups. You're going to start to change your posture. And then all of a sudden you might end up with like a shoulder impingement. So like, was there a value from that stretch to get a shoulder impingement injury? Like probably not. But there is value of saying, man, I went beyond what I can do. And one of my favorite easy ones is to go get a weighted pack, hike up something, because you're going to hit the wall where you're like, I am done. I can't take another step. And then you're going to take another step. And then the next time you're going to go a little further, or you're going to go a little harder. And like, that's a really easy way to scale the comfort zone and say like, I didn't think I could do this, but you got further. So you got to do it you got to do it smart. I know I just kind of went crazy there.
No. It's good enough. Yeah, it's not easy.
Start slow. Start slow if you're just starting, man.
Yeah, or just working levels is what you're saying.
Totally.
Okay.
Like if it's easy, you gotta kick it up and be honest with yourself. Like, are you just checking the box? Like, don't just check the box. Like, improve.
How do people get access to you via social media, your website, the name of your podcast?
Easiest way is to connect with me just at livegreatlifestyle.com. There you can find, the Live Great Lifestyle podcast, which oddly enough, I don't talk a whole lot of health and fitness on, which I'm going to start doing more. I just need to do little Friday tips, but I bring I brought on a lot of professional athletes. I've had Navy SEALs on, some high level business people to just step into their mindset and really see how high achievers are thinking and doing things differently. So yeah, livegreatlifestyle.com on social, Instagram, Facebook, but that's the easiest way.
Great, man. This is probably the most fun I've had.
Oh, dude, I love it.
Yeah. Since I've
shut
done
up
this.
about this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's like I've had some great people on, but it's probably the most fun. We should do it again at some point in the future. Yeah. Any final thoughts or anything, man?
Man, final thoughts are always just this. For somebody who's listening to this, who's trying to get started, understand like you're going to either do prehab or you're going to do rehab. Like at some point, you're going to do this because either you're sick and unhealthy, like you're a diabetic, or it's gotten so bad that you've decided to get into action, and now you got to do the rehab. Or you could do the prehab. You could do it where you're kind of in a good place, where you're feeling pretty good. Step into it sustainably, but either way, you're going to do it. And actually, the items from a prehab and a rehab place, they're pretty much the same thing.
Fucking brilliant, dude. Either that should be a meme or a T-shirt or something. I like that, but it rings so true. It's like pay now or pay later.
Yep. And the actions are going to be the same. Might as well do it now while it's easier.
Thank you for carving out time and
my pleasure.
And pardon a lot of that on people, and where I'm not the only one just kind of barking at shit, but coming from a true professional like yourself. Thanks again, man. We'll do it again soon at some point. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon, friend.
All right. You too. Thanks for bringing me on. And to those listening, I appreciate it. And hopefully this was helpful.